Well, ladies and gentlemen, we couldn't ask for a better day, could we? This is wonderful. And we'd like to thank the Elgin High School Band under the direction of Robert Sanchez for that introductory music. Thank you so much. That was inspiring. At this time, I would like to ask you all to stand as the Combined Veterans Color Guard from American Legion 57, VFW 1307, and AMVETS 202 present the colors of our nation. And please remain standing for the national anthem. And now the playing of the national anthem.
Present, ho!
And now I'd like to call on James Mosby from AMVETS Post 202 to give us our invocation.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Today is Veterans Day. Every year on November 11th, we remember and honor our military veterans, those men and women who served our country in the various military branches of the armed forces: Air Force, Army, Coast Guard, Marine Corps, and Navy. In a very special way, we welcome our veterans who have joined us today. Here at this memorial, we gather together to thank them, as well as all other men and women who have served our country. And we ask God to bless them for their courage, valor, and their service. Thank you.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. We have many dignitaries here today. I have a few that I would like to identify. Right now we have Anna Moeller from the 43rd Congressional District. Anna? We have Rich Dunn and Terry Gavin from our City Council. We have Fire Chief Fahey here with a lot of the firemen from Elgin Fire Department. We have Commander Lally and Commander O'Shea here, and several from our police department. Please be recognized. And we have Colonel Tams over there. Sir? And of course, we have the best guests, and that's every single one of you. Thank you for coming today. Oh, go ahead, make a clap. And now I would like to call on Mayor David Captain to give us welcoming remarks from the city of Elgin. Mayor?
Thank you, Tricia. It's always a pleasure to be here on the 11th day of the 11th month at the 11th hour and celebrate the contributions that veterans have made to our country. And I have a little poem that I'd like to read, and I think it's appropriate for today. The danger has passed, the wrong is righted, the veterans ignored, the soldiers slighted. And I think that's profound for us. That's something that we have a tendency to forget. And I've been facing issues in Elgin and having discussions about the homeless people in our community. And homelessness among veterans is epidemic in the United States. I think we have to pay attention to that in our community as well, provide comfort to those people, and make sure that they get the care that they need. Many of them come back from battlefields around the world with a grievous injury to their body and to their mind. And some carry that with them all their lives. Many of them come back with issues that are created through the administration of painkillers and end up with addiction problems. They also become part of our community. And I think that when we walk down the street and see those men and women that are homeless in our community, let's pause and think about that as well. That they may have given a huge part of their life to be part of our community, and we need to welcome them to that and do the best that we can to support them in their hour of need. Many of these young men and women will be part of our community for many years to come. And it's our obligation as a city to make sure that they have the care that they need, and that's what we should be doing as the city of Elgin. Look forward to trying to resolve some of those issues with City Council and with our community and our faith-based organizations in the future to try to make the life a better life for them. Thank you very much.
Wonderful words and how truthful. And we did have a councilwoman sneak in. She does that a lot. Rose Martinez. She's right over there. Please be acknowledged. And at this time, I'm going to call on the Elgin High School Band under the direction of Robert Sanchez to play the military medley. And when I call it out, your branch of service, stand up. Thank you, Elgin High School Band, and thank you to all our military family. One more time. Our guest speaker is Jerry Turnquist. If you don't know Jerry Turnquist, it's not his fault. Jerry Turnquist has been around many, many years in many, many capacities. He gave me a 14-page bio, and I said, Jerry, I just can't read it. He is the Elgin historian, and he is also a Daily Herald feature writer. And he said, now make sure you tell him that I've been the EPMA, the Elgin Patriotic Memorial Association president for the last 15 years. So I said, okay, the rest of it is up to you. Let's give a warm welcome to Jerry Turnquist, our guest speaker.
Thank you, Tricia. Members of our armed forces, veterans, elected officials, and fellow Elginites, I'm honored to share some comments with you on this Veterans Day, a day to honor and thank all veterans. When Tricia asked me to speak this morning, she suggested I take a look back at some of our past Veterans Days and programs. Glad she did that, because I probably would have asked her if that's the direction I could have gone anyway. To understand Veterans Day and how we ended up here this morning requires a look back at World War I, a conflict originally called the Great War. This massive fighting began in 1914 and involved more than 24 nations in a twisted series of alliances. Germany's unrestricted use of submarine warfare finally drew the United States into the conflict in 1917. Elgin men answered the call with over 1,700 serving. One who was among them was my grandfather, Oscar F. Turnquist, who left his job as a machinist in Elgin. Of those who served, 38 did not return. 22 died in France. There's a bronze plaque in their honor that is on display here at the Veterans Memorial Park. To put these numbers in perspective, please realize Elgin was less than 1/4 the size it is today. Early in the morning of November 11th, 1918, an armistice was signed to end the fighting. It would take effect later that day at 11 a.m., the 11th hour of the 11th day of 11th month. That date would take on special meaning. The war to end all wars, as most people thought, was now over. Over 20,000 people participated and prayed in downtown Elgin later that day. Schools and businesses closed, factory whistles blew. In 1919, on the first anniversary of the 3-month-old American Legion Post 57 organized a program at Eagles Hall to commemorate the day. Much of the day's focus was in the schools, with the traditional facing east for a minute at 11 a.m. becoming part of the day. This would continue for many years. 2 years later, in 1921, hundreds of Elgin people attended a tree planting at Sherman Hospital. Next to the elm tree was a boulder and a bronze plaque honoring those who had served. Trees were also planted that day in a small park across from the Grand Army Republic Hall on Fulton Street near Villa and on the east side of Lord's Park. In 1922, the city dedicated a World War I statue in honor of those who had served. Many school children contributed to that memorial that still stands today in Davidson Park at Villa and Prairie Streets. By the 1930s, the Armistice Day program was a regular feature in Fountain Square. For those who may not be familiar, Fountain Square is the area south of the Tower Building, bordered by the three-way intersection of Chicago and Douglas Avenues. The location has never really been square, and for most of the time there hasn't been a fountain there, but us old-time Elginites will always call it anyway. Joining the American Legion and the programs of the 1930s was the newly established VFW Post 1307, which began in 1929. As before, programs would conclude with taps. Short parades would often precede the day's program. Regular visits to the Elgin State Hospital, now the Elgin Mental Health Center where soldiers were housed, also followed. In 1938, Armistice Day became a legal holiday, but it didn't really change much in Elgin. The same was true in 1954, when President Eisenhower signed a bill renaming the holiday as Veterans Day to honor all veterans. During the late 1960s, Elgin Veterans Day programs put the focus on Elgin men killed in Vietnam. One year's program also featured high school students reading patriotic essays they had written. The time period also saw the ceremony moved to the the newly opened Civic Center complex between what is now the Robert Reed Gilliam Municipal Complex and the Hemmons Cultural Center. While November 11th has always been a special date, there were years on which there was no program that was held because it fell on a Sunday, and organizers did not want to compete with church services. But there was one particular year in which there was no program held on November 11th. In fact, there was no program held in November at all. Federal legislation in the late 1960s created the 3-day weekend arrangement we now have for federal holidays. This included moving Veterans Day to the last Monday in October. This lasted for 1 year in Elgin, 1971, when Illinois bowed to public pressure and returned the holiday to its original date, November 11th. Federal legislation finally caught up a few years later. November 11th was too special to have on any other day. The returning to the meaning of Veterans Day since 1954, as we now know it, is a day to honor all veterans. For Elgin, this means honoring veterans as far back as the Mexican-American War of the 1840s, where one Elginite laid down his life. We have a plaque over here recognizing that conflict and others. It also means honoring those who served in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and the Gulf Wars, and on through the global war of terrorism. It means honoring those who have kept peace at all other times. It certainly means honoring those who are in harm's way as we speak. As I close, I'd like to leave us all with a special charge. As a lifelong teacher, I've always heard comments that young people today don't understand what this day is all about. Well, I say it's up to you, up to all of us, teachers included, to do something about that. My father was an active member of the Veterans of Foreign War Post 1307, and I accompanied him to many veterans-related events as a child, way more than most young people. Not all youth had that opportunity. He engaged me with many stories with veterans. I only wish I could go back and have some of them again. Especially wish I could go back and listen and talk to members of the World War I Veterans of Company E of the Illinois National Guard. We held a reunion at the post each October. If you're a veteran and feel comfortable, please share your story with others. Various schools are now in session on Veterans Day. Some schools are simply looking for veterans to be present and be recognized. One school this morning was just looking for veterans to be present at a flag-raising ceremony. For those who are not veterans, please tell others why you feel this day is special. We should encourage young people to speak to veterans and ask questions. In closing, I would like to say that regrettably, as we all know, World War I was not the war to end all wars as was thought. Yet we still meet here on the anniversary of this armistice, November 11th, 1918, 97 years later, as a reminder of the day Americans hoped they had achieved a lasting peace. We also meet here to honor those who fought in what they thought would be the last war. And we honor those who served before that time, those who have continued to fight to protect our freedoms. But someday, with God's help, someday that dream of a lasting world peace will be recognized. I thank you for attending this morning. God bless you and your families. God bless our troops, and God bless America.
I had the opportunity this morning to go to Larson Middle School. What a nice assembly it was. And they listened, and I think they learned something this morning, and I hope they learned more today in Jerry's speech. Right now, I'd like to call in the Elgin High School Band once again. They're going to give us another musical selection, and I think it's only fitting, the Battle Hymn of the Republic. hear it for the Elgin High School Band. At this time, we will have the rifle salute by the American Legion and VFW and AMVETS combined rifle squad, followed by taps. And the taps will be played by Bradford Jensen and the echo by Michael Johnson from the Elgin High Band. Please stand, ladies and gentlemen.
Fire 3 rounds and onto the siege. Safety up. And parade. Hey. Ready. Hey. Fire. 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 What? Huh.
Bugler, sound taps.
Hey. Ready. Huh.
And again, please remain standing. And I will call on James Mosby from AMVETS 202 to give us our benediction. James.
Lord our God, we give thanks to you for the great land of our birth, with all its liberties and many blessings. Today, we especially give thanks for those who serve their country in its hour of need, and for our fallen comrades who have given their lives in that service. May we never forget their sacrifice. Lord, watch over those military men and women on American and foreign soil this day, when knowing the real potential dangers of their work. Stand ready to preserve the cause of freedom with a devotion to duty as those who have served before them. Grant your continued divine care over the family members who are called upon daily to watch and wave goodbye to their loved ones as they go to their duty as members of our nation's armed forces. Honor their devotion and sacrifice. This prayer we offer in thy name. Amen. Thank you.
Please remain standing as the color guard retires the colors of our nation. Two. You may be seated. I would like to give a special thanks to the Elgin High School Band, and I'd like to say that this has been a tradition for them for several years. And when they had a new band leader, I asked, will you be doing it? And he says, of course, we're the Elgin High Band. So how about a round of applause for the wonderful Elgin High Band under Robert Sanchez. There's nothing more heartwarming than hearing taps. I think it's one of those songs that reminds us of those who aren't here, but it also reminds us of all those who are. And I'd like to thank the two trumpeters. I would like to thank Bradford Jensen and Michael Johnson. Thank you so much for making taps come alive today. I would like to thank the combined color guard and combined rifle squad from American Legion 57, VFW 1307, and AMVETS 202. Thank you so much for taking part. I leave you with these words. General John J. Pershing had a wonderful blueprint for this remembered peace. He said the 11th of the 11th of the 11th. He also said we need to remember the peacetime because the war is so devastating. I say to each and every one of you who has not served, we in the military do not live for war. We fight for peace. The peace that only comes through the dedication of the men and women who raise their right hand and say, I will stand between this nation and its enemies, and you will be safe on my watch. The 11th of the 11th of the 11th. Ladies and gentlemen, let us never forget, and let us always be the America and the Americans worth fighting for. God bless each and every one of you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.